Welcome back, I'm the Watcher. On today's video, we're going to talk about the Rolex Datejust. I'm actually going to review it, but also I'm going to talk about it because it is very controversial. I just realized I have made 82 videos on my channel. This is my 82, and I have never actually had a Rolex Datejust. 39 of those videos are about Rolex, and other videos even mention Rolex too. So I never actually had one, but the first one on my channel is very controversial. And I really want to hear your opinions on this one because collectors are really divided. I am divided personally about this piece. But before getting into details, I will keep announcing the Chanel chain giveaway. We just passed 100 subscribers. I was so proud of all my people. It's really cool. We're at 102 now. And I was proud of myself. It's kind of a channel accomplishment. I know it's not much compared to the big ones, but it is pretty cool reaching that 3 digits, and soon hopefully we'll give this out. I do really want to get this out. Make sure you follow the 4 steps for the giveaway.
Now, first turning ourselves around, just looking at it like this, can you tell where the controversy comes in? Well, it's right here on the dial. It is a Onyx dial, and Onyx was made by Rolex. There is a factory version. I am not sure if the factory version has the Swiss made at the bottom. I'm not sure. I know they have just Swiss. I am not sure that they do have the Swiss made. I'm not sure about that. It is sapphire covering it. Everything about this watch is factory except for that dial. So the movement is untouched. It's all original. The bracelet, everything you think of, the fluted bezels, 18 karat white gold. So I know a lot of people, when something is aftermarket, especially like a dial, or even say if you pop in a different bezel or bracelet, they might think, other parts are aftermarket, and it actually gets people scared. But no, this is all authentic Rolex except for the dial. But it is a very well executed aftermarket dial. The text is pretty clear. It's not Rolex, but the text is pretty clear. This one divides me. If it was if it was just a regular aftermarket dial, then I would say, it's not my taste. I understand if a watch dial gets ruined somehow. I don't know how a Rolex watch dial would get ruined, but if it does, if something goes through, water, whatever, and they had to replace the dial, there's no salvation. I understand maybe that's why you could do it if you don't want to go get a new piece, but this dial, especially this, it's almost impossible to get a factory one, and if you do, you're going to be paying a significant premium. With adding an aftermarket, you're getting your look you want, but you're not having to pay a crazy price. Some people will say this is absolutely unacceptable. Others will say it's not really a watch. Some people actually say that. I couldn't believe it, but some people say by adding an aftermarket face. If it was the movement, I would agree. Even the bracelet is different. It's a different story. But even if it was the case, maybe I would consider, if the crown and all that, it would be kind of a Frankenstein watch. But no, this I consider not. This I consider a Rolex watch with an aftermarket face. That's basically it. Everything else, the hands are original. Everything on this watch is original, except for that face. So the watch itself is a 36 millimeter watch. It wears beautifully, this piece. Taking off my oyster quartz, this one really wears like a 38, 39, this oyster quartz, the way it's made. Great watch. If you want to go check out my last video, I really do praise this piece. But going back to the Datejust, so this is a later 90s. As you can tell, there is no drilled lug holes, so that's how you tell it's a 16220, and that means it has quick set in there. It has all the fancy features. This one is a fluted bezel. I personally would not buy a Datejust without a fluted bezel. If you're a longtime viewer of my channel, you will know I'm on the hunt for a Datejust, and this is a possibility for me. I just can't get my head wrapped around an aftermarket dial. It goes back and forth. I love it. I love how there's no indexes, because it is all, there's nothing to tell you. Some people say, well, you can't really tell the time, but Rolex made it like that, and you can tell the time. You know how to set. If you've done watches, if you know how to read the time, you can read the time on this. Just because there's no indexes doesn't mean you can get completely lost on this. And it does have that applied coronet crown at the 12. But I really can't do a straight review of this watch just because it has an aftermarket face, and I know it sounds, and it is a 36. You can find a straight review of this watch without this dial. They'll just tell you all the specs, but this, I like changing things up on my channel. The Oyster bracelet to me belongs on a GMT, belongs on a Submariner, belongs definitely on Daytona. All the sport models you can think of, this Oyster bracelet belongs on. Datejust, I never thought it would. Honestly, I really don't. I just don't find it appealing on the Datejust. But then I started going a little bit deeper and finding out the Jubilees, they do nip hairs, but that's subjective. It doesn't matter. I don't have crazy amount of hair on the wrist, and some people have different, and it's all depends on how it wears on you. But there's also the issue of stretching. With the Oyster, if I held this up and it was an original Jubilee, it would flop. The Oyster is a lot more sturdy. It's a lot more, as you can see, it's a bit scratched up, this piece. It's been loved, but it is very, very sturdy. And you can tell, even with all the scratches and everything and the bangs it probably has taken, it is perfect. It's very nice. 904 you're getting, because this is a later model, 904 stainless steel case, crown, and you're getting the bracelet there. Fluted 18 karat white gold bezel that Rolex makes all of this, and then the inside, the hands are white gold. I believe the aftermarket coronet there is gold. I'm not sure, but this one is pretty well executed compared to other dials I've seen. I've seen the Rolex more further apart. I've seen Oyster Perpetual also further apart on some other dials. And it's pretty hard because this is a real stone here. It is not just a metal black sheet. They used a real stone, as Rolex does, to put it in there and have it on the watch. Other issues I know could happen from putting an aftermarket dial. If you have a bad watch person, you have to trust your watch guy. You have to trust the watch guy and the watchmaker. You really do. If you want to replace the dial, things could get, if it doesn't fit well, or some dust can get in, but that's with, with everything if you open up that back. But you need to make sure it's serviced afterwards to get no dust, or just make sure the watchmaker does it very fast. You don't want to get anything in there. And also, if the dial's too thick, too thin, there's a bunch of issues that could arise. So you have to make sure you trust your watchmaker. You have to make sure you trust your watch dealer. I always say that even if it was all factory, I would still want to trust watch dealer, because they're getting better and better at making aftermarket faces, and you don't want to be buying a watch that you don't realize that has a aftermarket. I hope that doesn't happen to anybody, but you will have to be careful about that. Coming back to this particular watch, why I've changed my mind. Well, if we bring it up a little closer, just look at that black. You really don't see that ever. That straight black. They make black faces on Datejust, but nothing with no indexes. It's so clean. It's refreshing. It also makes it feel bigger to me, and it's unbelievable in the sunlight. You see the texture of the black. It's like an abyss. It reminds me of space. I just recently saw Alien in the theater. They're replaying it because there's not many movies coming out, and it kind of reminds me of those space shots. It's abyss, and it's really, really cool. That part, I really do like it. And on the wrist, even though I have a big wrist compared to most, I don't have a 6-inch wrist or anything like that. I have more towards the 7.5 area. But it's not tiny and it's not huge. I think it fits nicely. I don't like a watch going over, and the thickness of the lugs, the case. It's not a very old looking watch, even though it is from 1945, and Winston Churchill famously wore it. He was in 1945. They congratulated him and gave him a Rolex, and he had a 7.5-inch wrist. and he wore this watch. I know it was different times back then, but if you look at people, they're wearing this watch with big wrists too. It's a status symbol, of course. This one, I don't think as much just with that dial. I know it doesn't look like a Rolex really with that dial. The case and everything does, the bracelet. Bracelet, not so much either because it's not Jubilee. If it was Jubilee, the more traditional, the more Rolex, diamond bezel, diamond face, two-tone. That's what people really think when they think about a Rolex. They think about the Datejust with all those features. I personally, that's my least favorite type of Datejust, diamonds. I really don't like diamonds. At their factory, I understand. I don't curse them out or anything, but it's just personally not mine. Just playing around, I love. It's such a simplistic watch, but there's so many options. It's the most basic watch you can really get. 36 millimeter Datejust. There's a bunch of references. But as you go along through the years, from the 60s through out the 70s, because the original ones are a crazy price, the gold and all that. But if you're talking about 60s with the no quick set, so I recommend anybody out there, if they want a Datejust, I would save a little bit more and get nothing in the 1600 range, just because those watches are no quick set. I recommend getting a quick set, even if it's the old movement 3031. I recommend that more just because it has quick set. It is a pain if this is not an everyday wear. Say you have another dress piece or you have a work beater, then you could go switch back and forth. But at the same time, it's going to be a pain for you to set the date. This has the more updated one, 135, which is really good. It has a bunch of features that the old one, they're basically identical, the older version in this with the quick set, but this added a few more features in there. I would love to know your opinions on aftermarket dials. I would never, a long time ago, I'd never ever think about aftermarket. I think that's the worst type of watch ever, like in existence. But I can see myself making an exception with this type of dial. With dials, I can see a little exception. But if you're putting aftermarket diamonds, gaudy all over, I'm not huge into that. I know there's other people that are, but the people that are typically into the aftermarket gaudy diamond out watches are not watch enthusiasts. They want the status symbol of what it is, and that's why they get it. So it's not all, but I'm saying most of those people get it for that status symbol. I would love to know your opinions. Do you think this watch is good, or do you think it belongs, I need to get it switched out the face, or this is not my personal one, but if you bought it, would you switch out the face? Would you keep the face? Do you think it's a cool face? I would love to know everything in the comments. And it is kind of fun putting on the first Datejust on my channel, even though I have a bunch of Rolex videos, but I never had a Datejust on. I want to thank you all for watching. I will definitely catch you in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, it really does help that subscribe and the thumbs up if you did like. And also, if you want to join the Chanel chain giveaway, there is the instructions in the description below. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll definitely catch you in the next one. Have a fantastic day.